At home, I would eat this with a fork.
I feel like if you would eat it with a fork, you should eat it with a fork.
Yeah.
What feels right?
Oh my God, you guys, not helping. Hi, I'm Chun. I am a chef, a recipe developer, and a regular contributor to New York Times Cooking. We are here to celebrate Lunar New Year by making dumplings. Today we are making cabbage and potato dumplings. They are not traditional by any means, but were inspired by my mom's cabbage and potato soup. I think cabbage and potatoes is a great combination, and you'll see this combination in all sorts of foods like pierogis. Knishes have great mashed potato filling, Irish foods that combine cabbage and potato. It's really kind of a classic combination that, we're transforming into dumplings here. All right, so we're gonna start with the potatoes. You can use Yukon Golds or yellow potatoes. And we're gonna go ahead and cut them into 1/2-inch cubes. First, we cook the potatoes by boiling them in salted water. You want the potatoes to kind of come up to temperature with the water. It helps the potato cook a little bit more evenly without getting too mushy in the center. Get off the heat. Now the water's boiling, we're gonna give it a nice seasoning with salt. 10 minutes until they're tender. And if there's any foam that rises to the top, we're just gonna skim that off. Just kind of helps clear out any impurities so that when you drain the potatoes, it's not going into the potatoes. So now we're gonna drain the potatoes. Okay. And then we're gonna actually return the potatoes to the hot saucepan. And this is gonna help them dry out, and the residual heat in the saucepan is gonna encourage any excess liquid to evaporate. So it's been about 5 minutes and the potatoes are dry. We go ahead and transfer them to a bowl. And just give it a quick mash with a fork. They don't need to be completely smooth, because we do want some texture in the filling. Drying out the potatoes actually will prevent a soggy filling. And we also want kind of rich and dense mashed potatoes, so the less excess water, the better. Go ahead and season with some salt. Great, there you go. So now we're gonna prepare the rest of the filling ingredients. Have some leek. I'm gonna use the white and light green parts. To clean them, I like to make a slit the top half, and then we'll just go give it a rinse under the sink. Well, leeks will capture a lot of dirt in between the leaves, so I kind of like to separate them and rinse them underwater. I really like leeks here as opposed to regular onion because it has a nice mild onion flavor, and it also, when you cook it, it becomes nice and tender, and it has really nice sweetness. So we're gonna do a fine dice or fine chop on these leeks. For the cabbage, we're also going to finely chop them. Same size as the leeks, about a 1/4-inch dice. And I kind of like to stack up a few leaves and work with them like that. Okay, so now we are going to cook the leeks and cabbage in butter. I like using a nonstick here just because it prevents any burning, just helps cook the vegetables evenly. The butter helps to soften the vegetables and brings out the natural sweetness in the vegetables. Okay, so the butter's melted and we're gonna add the leeks and season with salt and pepper. And we're just gonna stir to nicely coat them, and we're just really looking to wilt them a little bit. We don't wanna completely cook them out because we want a little bit of texture still left in the filling. So we're on medium heat, and this should only take a few minutes. So the leeks have softened, and we're gonna go ahead and add the remaining butter and let that melt. Butter's melted, we're gonna go in with the cabbage. Looks like a lot, but it will shrink down. A little toss to evenly incorporate everything. And we'll season it with some salt and pepper. Season as you go so that all the layers are flavored. Napa cabbage is actually really nice here as opposed to regular because it's such a milder cabbage flavor that actually doesn't compete with any of the other filling ingredients. Okay, so now that the mixture has kind of softened and everything is wilted, we are going to try and encourage some caramelization. So we will increase the heat to medium-high. Just let it go for a few minutes and you'll see the water kind of evaporate and then we'll get some browning on the bottom, which translates to flavor. So I think we've got some nice browning and some caramelization, which is going to add a lot of depth of flavor to the filling. And once you see that, we're done. Once the vegetables are cooked, we're just going to transfer them to a plate to cool. We want to make sure it's kind of lukewarm, room temperature, so that when we fill the wrappers don't get soggy. Now that our leek and cabbage mixture has cooled, we are going to make the filling. So we're just going to add everything to the mashed potatoes. We've got the sauerkraut, caraway seeds. The caraway seeds just kind of add a really nice aroma. They pair really well with sauerkraut and dill. Swiss cheese, Parmesan, and then we got scallions and fresh dill. Season it with salt and pepper. And then we're just going to gently fold until everything is well combined. Try not to mash it down too much so that we can maintain a little bit of texture in the filling. The melted butter that we added to the cabbage and leeks is now flavoring the potatoes as well. So they'll get nice and creamy. Right. Now we are ready to fill the dumplings, and we have here a pile of square wrappers, which you just want to keep covered with a damp paper towel so they don't dry out. And we will take 1 level tablespoon of the filling and place it in the center of the wrapper. Then we'll just lightly moisten the edges. Okay, and then to wrap, we will bring the bottom up and over the filling and press it against the top edge to seal. Then we'll seal the rest of the wrapper, pushing out any air bubbles. So you get a nice rectangle. And then to form the coin shape, we are going to just dab one corner with water and then bring the 2 corners together and press to seal. We'll place it on the parchment lined paper so they don't stick. So we're using these square wonton wrappers. You can find them in any Asian market in the frozen section. You just want to take them out maybe a day before you make these so that they can thaw. This shape, I kind of was channeling a little bit the filled pasta feeling because they do get tossed in butter and finished with parm. All right, now we're ready to cook the dumplings and we're just going to boil them. So I like to do a dozen at a time. And we'll just kind of wait for them to rise to the top. Yeah, it'll take about 4 to 5 minutes and the wrapper will kind of start to turn translucent and you'll see the filling color through the wrapper. They're all kind of floated to the top now, and that's a nice signal that in about 1 to 2 minutes they'll be cooked through. I think we're ready to go. Then we're gonna go right back into the hot pot that we just cooked them in. Add a pat of butter and just kind of swirl them around. Butter's gonna melt from the heat in the pan. You can also swirl the pan if it helps. The butter's gonna melt and nicely coat the dumplings, and it kind of creates its own little sauce. These are so warm and inviting. have the buttery mashed potatoes, really creamy texture. And then you have the tangy sauerkraut and the pop of fresh dill, which just kind of brings everything together. You can definitely make these ahead of time. You just want to line them up on the parchment-lined baking sheet and stick them in the freezer. It'll take a few hours for them to freeze. And once they do, you can store them in resealable plastic bags. And when you're ready to go, just throw them into the boiling water. You can find the recipe for these dumplings on New York Times Cooking. I hope you make them and enjoy. Happy Dumpling Week. What is this? Wow, is that basil? It's so fragrant. And they're so crunchy and crispy. Good job.